Hey everybody, welcome back to Why Not RV. If this is your first time watching, I'm Chris, and today we're going to talk about 5 things you have to know about your new RV before you take it out on the road. If you haven't already, go ahead and grab that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notifications if you want to learn more and make less mistakes while RVing. The first thing you need to know about your new RV is all the switches. Every RV is a little bit different, so I'm going to go ahead and show you a few different examples here. Before you hit the road, you might want to get in your cockpit and learn all the different buttons, how to turn on the wipers, the blinkers, all that kind of stuff. I know it sounds simple, but the last thing you want to do is be going down the road and it start raining and you haven't used the wipers yet on your new RV. So make sure you learn where that stuff's at before you get on the road. Look at all these fancy buttons and switches, more switches, 2 different screens. You got buttons on your steering wheel. There's somewhere on here where you can do the wipers. I don't even know, this is not my RV. Still talking about switches, aside from your driving stuff, you have all your lighting and everything inside the RV. Now this is in Rob's RV, so he has this single display that shows everything, and most things are already labeled and it's really easy to read, but not all RVs are like this. And even if they are, you still want to go through because there's so many different menu items that you can click on and see the difference of stuff, and you don't want to be figuring this stuff out on the road while you're at a campground. You want to figure it out way before you leave. So get in here, start messing with things, push some buttons, and figure out what does what. I'm going to take you into our RV now so I can show you our switches and the difference of 2 different RVs. As you can see, my control panel is a little bit different than Rob's, but again, most things are labeled. You know, my water pump, water heater on 12 volt, 120 volt, the awning, different lights, but even though these are labeled, some things are not. Some things just come completely blank and there's nothing to do. So when you get your new RV, you want to go ahead and figure out all these switches. What does all the light switches do? Does some of them go to outside lights that you can't even see when you click it on and off? Do one at a time and make sure you figure out what does what, because you don't want to be figuring this stuff out while you're on the road. One other switch that people don't really think about until it's a little bit too late is your AC and your furnace. Usually it's all in one thermostat. It depends on your RV though, but you want to figure out how it works, the fan mode, cooling mode, furnace mode. You want to know what each one does before you're out there trying to figure it out and just waiting to see what comes on. Here's a prime example of why you should learn your switches. I have a switch here, and I have a knob here. I got a control knob here. I got another control knob back here, and I got a 3-way switch right here. Now, I've already figured out what all of them do, but if you're brand new in your new RV and you don't know what some of this stuff does or how it works, you want to figure that out before you take it out and something breaks and you need to use the manual mode in order to let some air breathe in your RV. The number 2 thing that I believe you need to learn about your new RV before you get on the road is your water consumption. If you're at a campground, you're on full hookups, you might not be too concerned about it. But if you're going down the road and you're boondocking, you're really going to want to know how much water you're using out of each appliance and how much longer you have until your tank is empty or your gray tanks are full. To do this properly, the first thing you need to do is go ahead and fill up your freshwater tank. I already got mine filling up right now, so it's filling up, and here in about 15-20 minutes it should be full. If it's your first time filling up your freshwater tank, it is a good thing to know how long it takes to fill up. That way you can kind of just set it, walk away, set a timer, and just wait. I know that mine takes about 20 minutes to fill up. Now it's not perfectly needed to know because most freshwater tanks have overflows, so once it fills up all the way, it's going to start dripping out of the sides, and then you can just go ahead and turn the water off. But if you want to know and you're not just letting it run and run and run, time it the very first time you do it. Make sure the tank is completely empty, turn the valve off, or open the valve on the bottom side so that it's completely drained, close it back off and start filling your tank up, and make sure you time it the first time just to have a rough idea. Obviously, if you're on different water pressures and different volumes of water coming in, it's going to vary a little bit. But again, this doesn't really matter all that much. You just want to have a general idea. Here we are about 20 minutes later and my freshwater tank is overflowing, which means it's full. So we're going to go ahead and walk on over and shut that water off. I'm going to now go ahead and turn it so that I can pull water from my water pump through the from the freshwater tank. Obviously, every RV is a little bit different out here. We're going to talk about this on a whole different episode, but you want to learn your water system. I just have this Anderson valve, but some of them have several different valves inside the wet bay. They're all a little bit different. Now that we've got the freshwater tank filled up, we're going to go ahead and turn the water pump on. And we're going to go ahead and start to test all of our different sinks. So there's a couple different ways of doing this, but what I like to do is use a 1 gallon jug where possible, just so I can measure 1 gallon. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to start a timer, and I'm going to go ahead and start filling this up at the same time. I'm going to time how long it takes using my water pump to fill a 1 gallon jug. All right, so now that I got that time, I know how long it takes 1 gallon to come through my kitchen faucet. Depending on your sink in your bathroom, you might not be able to fit a gallon jug underneath the faucet. So another way of doing it is first go ahead and stop the water, use the existing gallon jug that you just filled up, and we fill this up 1 gallon. Then we can make a note of a mark. You can even just use your finger if you want to. You can draw a line on the outside, whatever you need to do. But I know if I keep my finger right about here, that's 1 gallon. So now I can drain this and refill it with the sink again to that same mark, and again time it, and I'll know how much water I'm using in the kitchen, or excuse me, in the bathroom sink. In the shower, I can do the same thing where I can just take my head, put it down into my 1 gallon jug down here, and then go ahead and fill that up and time it. Again, I've already done this, so I'm not going to show you the whole process. The last thing we need to measure is this fun apparatus down here. We need to figure out how much water it takes to flush. So there's a few different ways you can do that. What I did is I took my 1 gallon jug and I filled it up, and then I obviously emptied it, and then I refilled it by using the foot release down here, and figured out how much water and how long it took to fill all the way up to that 1 gallon. And then I averaged out kind of about what we use for each of our flushes. Now I averaged up just about everything, but what I did over here is I wrote down what everything takes, which is about 1 gallon a minute on all the regular stuff. The sink, the bathroom sink, and the shower is all about 1 gallon per minute. And the toilet, we average 1/2 gallon per flush. And the reason I wrote all that down is so that now when we're boondocking, I can easily set a timer for a shower and say a 10-minute shower is going to use about 10 gallons of water. I can set a timer while we're doing dishes and know how many minutes it takes to do the dishes, and I know how much water we use, and we can keep track of it and how much water we have left in the tank, because these sensors are not perfectly accurate. Even if the sensors are extremely clean and they're going to tell you in between 1/3 and 2/3 on a 75 or 80 gallon tank, that's 20 to 30 gallons of a difference between 1/3 and 2/3. So how do you really know how much water you have in there? And once you go below 1/3, you still have 20 gallons in there. That's still a lot of water. 20 minutes of a shower, or a 10-minute shower and 10 minutes of dishes. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. So write it all down and keep track of it while you're boondocking. Make things a lot easier. The third thing you need to know about your new RV is how to stock it and what you need. Some RVs come with certain things. Some of them have electrical cords already built into them, or hoses built into them. Some of them don't. You need to know the basic stuff that you need to get on the road and be functional. But at the end of the day, you just need to get out and start using it. Because when you are out on the road and you're doing stuff, you're going to realize, oh, I wish I had a wet dry vac. Just one thing that I picked up after a few different trips and realized I wanted a vacuum that can do both wet and dry. So I picked up one at Walmart for like 15, 20 bucks. And I've held on to it now for about a year, and I've only had to use it one time, but it was something that I thought I needed. Now, I didn't think I needed that before I left, and there's tons of stuff out there, and there's a lot of videos out there that talk about the different things that people recommend you have before you get going on the road, and what to stock your RV with, what tools, what hoses, and there's just so many opinions out there. So do your own research on that for your particular RV, whether it's a travel trailer, a pop-up, a fifth wheel, or a motorhome, and figure out what's best for you and what you need. At the end of the day, just get out on the road, start using it, because then you'll realize what you actually do or don't need. I'm gonna put a little list below of some of the stuff that I think is pretty important when you are stocking your RV, but another thing to consider is weights. We keep a lot of dry canned food on our RV because of our type of work. We like to make sure that we're prepared to go a month's worth of food without having to stop anywhere at any given time. So we keep a lot of that on here, and because of that, I know what other things I can and can't bring in the RV, because that stuff weighs quite a bit. So be aware that when you're stocking your rig is your weights. The fourth thing you want to know about your new RV is how to change its tire. First off, you want to know where the spare tire is, so you got to locate that first. My spare tire is mounted underneath the rear axles, and it has the little release right here, and there's a special tool that I'm going to show you that helps turn that to lower the tire down. When you get your new RV, check the pressure of that tire, because when you're on the road and you need to change your tire, you either need an air compressor or you need that to be already prepped up the right pressure. No matter where you keep your four-way and your special tool or your air compressor, as long as you know where it's at, that's all that matters. So I know this is my tool that pulls out or releases a spare tire down. I got my four-way right here, and I have my air compressor right here. So I'm good to go when I need to change a tire. The fifth and final thing you want to learn about your new RV is how to pull it, how to tow it, how to drive it, how to hook up your electrical, plumbing, how to get it set up at a campsite. Now, there's plenty of videos out there on those specific tasks, so I'm not going to talk about each one. I've done a campsite breakdown and setup video myself, so you can see how I do electrical, how I do plumbing, but every RV is a little bit different, so you want to figure out what works for you and your RV. You don't want to be pulling this thing down the interstate for the very first time, and that's all you've driven it before, straight onto the interstate. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to drive it around your neighborhood, you want to drive it down your local main roads, and maybe hopefully there's a campground nearby that doesn't necessarily take you onto the interstate, so you can get used to driving it, get used to pulling it, check the brakes, check all the lighting, check all that stuff before you get running down the main highways. That's it. Those are 5 things that I think you need to learn about your new RV before you take it on the road. If you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up. Comment below what you think might be important for some newbies to learn and what I might have left out. Put that down in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.